Shalom, Israel, Shalom to the Torah, Shaz, Yash Allah. Giving, of course, all honor, glory, and praise unto the Most High God, Yahweh. In the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shah, the world refers to as Jesus Christ, and He is the Savior of the nation of Israel. All right, Shalom, Shalom. So I'm going to get straight into this. As you can see from the title of this video, be going into proof that Paul, the apostle, kept the law. Right, because you have a lot of Christians, they say, you know, you don't have to keep the laws are not here anymore. And they will try to say that Paul himself didn't keep the law, right? Because they'll pull scriptures like this, right? They'll pull scriptures like Romans, the 3rd chapter, as to say that we all fall short of the glory of the Most High, that nobody can actually keep the laws, and that it's just an impossible task to do. So let's get Romans chapter 3, verse 10, right? It says, there is none that, Salakia, as it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none that understandeth. There is none that seeketh after God. All right. So they'll pull scriptures like that when we're talking to them on the highways and byways, wherever you're talking to a Christian. The average Christian will say, oh, well, you know, Romans 3, you know, Romans 3:10. There is none that's righteous. There's none that doeth good. So you trying to keep the law like you just beating a dead horse. You doing something that's impossible. When we know that there are people in the Bible that were called perfect in the eyes of God. They were called perfect, and they were keeping the laws. Right? Now we all know that we all come short to the glory of the Most High, because we're in these fleshly bodies. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that you can't strive for that perfection, as the Lord says in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 48. Yeah, we all fall. We all sin. But that doesn't mean that you had people that kept the law, right? In the Bible, and Paul was one of them, right? Let's go to the Matthew chapter 5, right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 5 and verse number 48. It says, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. So the Most High, through Yahweh Shah, said, be perfect, right? He literally said, be perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. So we want to strive to be like Yahweh Shah. We want to strive to be like the Most High, who was sinless, right? Yeah, Kansh, Shalom, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah to the art, right? The brother said Job was called perfect. Job was called perfect in Job chapter 1, verse 1 on down, right? Let's go to the book of Luke, right? We don't want to give up, right, in this thing. Let's go to Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1, verse number 5. It says, there was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias of the course of Abia, and his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless. So last time I checked, the Bible was true. The Bible literally says that the parents, the father and the mother of John the Baptist, right, who are both Levites, they were what? Both righteous before the Most High, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless. So they were blameless in the eyes of the Most High. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes, because the topic is about Paul, right? Because, you know, a lot of Christians, they run a Paul for every doctrine. Trinity, Paul, right? Literally anything. Law done away with, Paul, right? Gentile salvation, that's talking about, you know, all nations being saved, they go to Paul, right? Yeah, as the brother was saying, shout out to Shalom, 144K, the spirit of prophecy, right? Brother said, you know, last time I checked, the Bible was right. You know what I'm saying? That's right. So let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 18, and verse number 18. It says, and Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Cenchrea, for he had a vow. So which vow is that? When you go into the Greek, now I can't pull it up right now, right? But if brothers want to pull it up, all you got to do is go into the Greek for that word vow, And it'll go specifically into the what? The fact that he had a Nazirite vow. That's the vow that it's talking about, that he had, right? And let's kind of just go into that real quick. What is a Nazirite? So Paul was a Nazirite, and he had to shave his head because he had ended the vow. So when you end your vow, you got to shave your head according to the laws of the Most High. So let's go to Numbers chapter 6, right? Let's go to Numbers chapter 6 and verse number 2. It says, "Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazirite, to separate themselves unto the Most High," right? So like unto the Lord. So when you want to separate yourself unto the Most High, you want to what? When you take a vow. Now this vow of a Nazirite is not required. It's kind of like extra credit points with the Most High. It's something, if you want to do it and you have the zeal to do so, then go ahead, right? Because when you do a vow, the Most High said you got to pay that thing, right? You don't want to just do a vow to the Most High and then not go through with it, right? You have to be determined and you have to finish that vow. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse number 4, right? It says on the vows, right? It says, "When thou vowest a vow unto the Most High, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed." So if a brother or a sister takes up a certain vow, whatever the case may be, in this case, it'll be a Nazirite vow. If you take up a Nazirite vow, you don't want to be you don't want to be a fool and say, yeah, I'm gonna be a Nazirite. I'm gonna separate myself unto the Most High for 2 years, and then in the first year you kind of just end the vow. Well, brother, you say you're gonna do it for 2 years, right? It says, "Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay." So it's better that you don't even do the vow, right, than for you to do it and then just not go through with it. But nevertheless, let's go to Numbers chapter 6 and verse 3 to kind of see what that vow is. So it says, "The vow of the Nazirite," it says, "He shall separate himself from wine and strong drink, and shall drink no vinegar of wine, or vinegar of strong drink, neither shall he drink any liquor or of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dried. All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree, from the kernels even to the husk." So if you are a Nazirite, you can't eat anything that comes from the vine, right? No vinegar, no strong drink, no alcohol, right? You gotta separate yourself. It says, "All the days of the vow of his separation, there shall no razor come upon his head." So you'll also have to grow out your hair. Who also was a Nazirite in the Bible? You had Samson, you had Samuel. These two men were Nazirites since birth. And a lot of times when you look at Nazirites, they are more in tune with the Most High, because they're taking a vow unto themselves and they're sacrificing, they're sacrificing a lot to be that Nazirite. Not having it, you can't cut your hair, so your hair is all out and stuff like that. It's all long, right? You may want to cut it, but you can't because of the vow. Or what? You trying to, you can't drink alcohol. So if you like to sip on some wine or anything like that, you can't do that when you're a Nazirite, right? But nevertheless, it says what? "Until the days be fulfilled, in the which he separateth himself unto the Lord, he shall be holy, and shall let the locks of his head grow. All the days that he separateth himself unto the Lord, he shall come at no dead body." Right? Now, I'm going to just keep going. Verse number 9. "And if any man die very suddenly by him, and he hath defiled the head of his consecration, then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day he shall shave it." Right? Now, I'm going to go down because I want to get to the point. Right? Verse 12. "And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering, and make an atonement for him, for that he has sinned by the dead, and shall hallow his head that same day." Right? Let me see here. Where's the point at? Right? Yeah, so verse 18, Salaki, verse 18, right? It says, and the Nazarite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall take the hair of the head of his separation and put it in the fire, which is under the sacrifice of the peace offerings. So the Nazarite has to shave his head, right? At the end of his vow, when he ends his vow, he has to shave his head, right? And as a brother put in the chat, 2 Thessalonians 2:11, and for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of individuals in the world. The Most High sends them a strong delusion that they should believe a lie. You know, that's Buddhist, that's whatever ideology that's outside of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. All right. But nevertheless, going back to that in the book of Acts, so that's why he had to shave his head. And that's why the Bible says he had a vow. So why in Acts chapter 18? Remember, Paul was converted in Acts the 9th chapter. So this is 9 chapters after, meaning years and years after the fact that that Paul was converted, in the fact that Paul, you know, even met Yahweh Shah through the Spirit. You know, wouldn't Yahweh Shah have broken down to Paul that basically you don't have to do that? Why is he doing the Nazarite vow if the law's done away with? Doesn't make any sense. Why is he doing the Nazarite vow? You know, it wouldn't make any sense for you to do something that's contained in the law if the law's done away with. And the same people that's saying that the law's done away with are saying that you got to pay tithes. So which one is it? You can't just pick and choose what laws are applicable to, or Salaki, what laws you kind of want to take, and then what other laws is like, oh, that's not applicable, and we not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Last time I checked, in the book of 2nd Esdras, right? In the book of 2nd Esdras, let me get this precept real quick, right? Get this precept, 2nd Esdras, the 9th chapter. Right, this is 2nd Esdras chapter 9 and verse 36. For we that have received the law perish by sin, and our heart also which received it. So that's why we perish, because we go off because we sin. And in fact, that's why death entered into the world, is because of the first sin, which was with Adam and Eve. So that through them, all men die, right? Verse 37. Notwithstanding, the law perisheth not, but remaineth in his force. So the law doesn't perish, though. A man may perish because of the law, but the law doesn't perish. It maintains in its force, meaning that it's going to be here forever and ever. All right? Because in the beginning was the law, if you have ears to hear. You know, the law is the word, and in the beginning was the word. That's John chapter 1, verse 1. You see that? So yeah, right? Let's go to Acts. Let's go back to that in Acts, though. So, I mean, when you read Acts, it's just a lot of precepts that show that Paul was keeping the law. Let's go to Acts chapter 18, same chapter, and let's go to go down to verse 21. It says, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh. He didn't say, well, you know, it's like, I mean, I know the law is done away with, but I don't want to keep this feast. You know, it's like, you don't have to keep the Pentecost. You don't have to keep the Passover. You don't have to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. I mean, you don't have to, you don't want to, right? That's what certain Christians say. Well, I mean, you don't have to keep the law, right? You want to keep it, that's on you. But me, I'm not going to keep that, right? That's these Christians. Let's go to Acts chapter 18, verse 21. Again, it says, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem, but I will return again unto you if God will. And he sailed from Ephesus. All right. So Paul said, look, I gotta keep this feast that comes, man. Right. In 1 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, he said, therefore, let us keep this feast. Talking about the Passover. So why is Paul still keeping the Passover and other feast days? You know, it's not just because people, some Christians might say, well, because of the Jews, he became, you know, he became a Jew in order to gain the Jews. No, I mean, Paul is a Jew, right? Paul is a Jew. He doesn't have to feign himself to act and be like the Jew. He is a Jew. He is an Israelite. You know, he's been keeping the law, right? He's been keeping the law. Let's go to Acts, right? We're gonna stay in Acts for a second. We're gonna go to Acts chapter 20, all right, and verse number 6. And we sailed away from Philippi after the days of unleavened bread. So why is the unleavened bread still mentioned here in Acts the 20th chapter? The law is done away with. I mean, surely they would have said that wouldn't even be there. If they knew that there was no significance of keeping the law, why would the days of unleavened bread be here in the Bible, right here in Acts chapter 20 in the New Testament? Right? But skipping down to verse 16, it says, for Paul had determined to sail by Ephesus, because he would not spend the time in Asia, for he hasted, if it were possible for him, to be at Jerusalem the day of Pentecost, because you're supposed to go to Jerusalem on those 3 feast days, on these 3 high holy days, the Passover, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles, right? So yeah, Khan. Yeah, Khan, as a brother said, yeah, Paul was speaking to the other Jews that were living in the other nations, right? That's who he was sent to, you know. But nevertheless, right, he wanted to be at Jerusalem if it was possible for the day of Pentecost. Now, of course, you can keep, you know, these other feast days, like, for example, we're in captivity. Brothers can't just up and go to Jerusalem right now. Well, everything that's going on over there and with the heathen treading down our land, according to prophecy, right? We can't just up and go to Jerusalem right now to keep the peace of day of Pentecost. So what we do is we keep it where we are. And so if anybody says, well, you can't do that, when you go to Tobit chapter 2 and verse 1, what did Tobit do? Right? What did Tobit do? Let's go to Tobit chapter 2, verse 1. Now when I was coming home again, and my wife Anna was restored unto me with my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks, there was a good dinner prepared me, in the which I sat down to eat. You see that? So, yeah, as the brother says, it's not time yet. There's a time and place for everything. The Lord's going to bring us back to our land, right? And there we're going to keep the feast days in our land then. But right now, we're in the land of our captivity. And there's prophecy, like Deuteronomy 30th chapter, that says that we will keep the laws wherever we are in the lands of our captivities. And we will bethink ourselves, as it says in the book of Baruch, the 2nd chapter, right? But nevertheless, it says here in Tobit chapter 2, Tobit is acknowledging the Feast of Pentecost, even though he's not in the land. He's not in Jerusalem. You know? He's not in Jerusalem. So Paul, he said, if it was possible, I'm trying to get to Jerusalem to keep the feast of Pentecost. But he's still going to keep it, nevertheless, if he didn't get there, because our forefathers kept it wherever they could. You know, during the time of Tobit, he was in the captivity of the Assyrians. The Assyrian captivity. So he couldn't just up and leave and go to Jerusalem to keep the Feast of Pentecost. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to verse 2. It says, and when I saw the abundance of meat, I said to my son, go and bring what poor man soever thou shalt find of our brethren who is mindful of the Lord, and lo, I tarry for thee. All right? So let's go back to that real quick for the sake of time. All right, have to wrap it up real quick. But so you got Acts chapter 20. All right? And again, I might have to make a part 2 because it's a lot of precepts. A lot of precepts. I'm gonna get Acts chapter 24. Acts chapter 24, verse number 14. It says, but this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, meaning they call us a cult, right? They call Black Hebrew Israelites. You guys are a cult. You guys are, you know, just a hate group, whatever, this and the third. Well, guess what? They said that to Paul, man. Right? They said that to Paul. They said, Paul, you're a heresy. You're a heretic. They said, Paul, you're in a cult, man. That's what they said to Paul. He said, so worship I the God of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and the prophets. You see that? So he believes in all things of the law and the prophets. Christians said that they believe all things of the law and the prophets, but will still turn around and say the law is done away with. Doesn't make any sense. You know? Make that make sense, man. Right? Make that make sense. How's that? That don't make any sense at all. How are you going to believe in all the law and the prophets, but turn around and say the law is done away with? Well, then you don't believe in the law. Right? Because the law says to do certain things. You know? The law says to do certain things, man. All right? And it says, I think I want to get also, just to end it off real quick, because I have to wrap it up for the sake of time. All right? I think I wanted to get 2 Timothy, if I'm not mistaken. All right? And there's a lot in 2 Timothy as well. And why would Paul be teaching the law if the law is done away with and he didn't keep the law? Why would he be teaching the law? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, cause the brother said they bugged out, man. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse number 2, it says, I thank the Most High, whom I serve from my forefathers with pure conscience, that without ceasing I have remembrance of thee in my prayers night and day. So Paul said, when you're looking at this verse in a different translation, right? They say, like Paul is actually saying, I worship the God that my forefathers worshiped. And how were our forefathers worshiping the Most High in the ancient days? They were keeping the laws. Abraham kept the laws of the Most High, man. That's Genesis chapter 26, verse 5. So if Abraham was keeping the laws of the Most High, he was worshiping Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. His son Isaac was doing that. Jacob was doing that, right? His sons, you understand? And all the way down to David, you had Solomon. You had a lot of righteous men that were keeping the law. And so Paul said, look, whom I serve from my forefathers. Meaning just like my forefathers was serving it, I serve that same powerful God that requires what? Us keeping the law. You know, so with that, all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Got to wrap it up through the Spirit. Giving, of course, all honor and glory and praise unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Hamashiach Yahushua, right? Through the Spirit, the water for all that tuning in through the Spirit, man. All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua. Hey, that's that last precept, 2 Peter 3:16, as also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures. Like, exactly. So, you know, you don't want to just, you know, unto their own destruction. That's right. You don't want to just, you know, jump into Paul not knowing what he's talking about. In Romans 7:1, he says, hey, I speak to them that know the law. He said, I'm talking to those that know the law. All right. So with that, all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Hamashiach Yahushua. Shalom, kings. Like I said, I might make a part 2 to this. So all praises. Shalom. Kwame Yashala.